A gentle introduction to South Indian Carnatic music, classical music, part 2 of 4 by Ramesh Mahadevan, read to you by Shivkumar Kalyan Raman, and illustrations by Harihar on the piano and Shivkumar. Let's make a tune, the concept of a scale. We have learnt about the keyboard, labelled the various keys under the Eastern and Western schemes, and even quarrelled about whether it should have 12 keys or 22 in an octave. We now know that these keys are like the alphabets in creating music. How then do we compose music? Before we answer this question, let us see if we can say anything about the structure of a tune or the melody itself. If we listen to any musical piece such as Janagana Mana or Roop Tera Masthana, we notice that their second lines and subsequent lines are not just mindless imitations or repetitions of the first lines. There is an elaboration of a theme as the song unfolds. You could listen to any line of Roop Tera Masthana and feel that it's connected to the first line in a musical sense. If someone played a musical phrase from the song at random, the odds are that you will guess it is from Roop Tera Masthana, and it might sound trivial. You may also notice that Roop Tera Masthana does not sound at all like Janagana Mana. There is the national anthem. There is a character, a structure and an identity to the song, however vague the concept may sound. If you have grasped the abstract concepts, you have almost understood the concept of a raga or ragam or rag. Because a ragam is an embodiment of a particular musical identity. For example, if you heard the song Vande Mataram, Shujalam Sufalam, you can tell that it has its own identity, which is very different from the way Janagana Mana or Roop Tera Masthana sound. This song is in fact based upon a ragam called Desh. How do we forge such musical identities using a keyboard? The answer lies in just choosing a subset of keys out of the 12 keys available in the octave instead of all the 12, and sticking just to the subset of keys while making music, and using the permissible gamakams or the microtones for that set of notes. If you use all the keys in the keyboard to compose one song, you may not create anything with an identity. You will see that as you understand more about music, that this statement is strictly not true. There are nice sounding musical compositions where almost all keys are used. Let us take an example. Let's choose just all the white keys in an octave, that is, use only 7 out of the 12 keys, and let's play the keys in any order, even stay on one key for whatever length of time we choose to do. Let us allow now ourselves to go to the white keys in the octaves below and above the second standard octave as well. After a few minutes, you might sense in effect a wholeness, gestalt, or a personality to the sound. If you don't believe me, have your friend play the keyboard with only the white keys. Now close your eyes and ask him or her to occasionally hit any black key. You can easily tell whenever the black keys are hit, because you are now sensitive to the quote structure or character produced by the 7 white keys. Is there a lower limit on how few keys we can choose in our subset and still get by to produce a raga? If we choose a subset of just 3 keys, say the first 3 white keys in an octave, and limit ourselves to those keys, we will see that we don't have much variety to the melodies we can produce. It may sound like drum beating, but it's devoid of any specific melodic personality. In general, note that there is not an absolute law. One chooses 5 or 6 or 7 keys out of the 12 keys available in the octave to make the raga. More about these selection rules later. Once these keys are selected, the corresponding keys in other octaves are also automatically selected and used in the melody making process. In the context of Indian Carnatic music, one has an extra degree of freedom. One can choose one set of keys to go up in frequency, called the Arohanam, and choose an entirely different set of keys to come down the octave, called Avarohanam. As we mentioned, the key sequence to go up is called the Arohanam, and the key sequence which forms the descending order is called the Avarohanam. More about it as well later. Now let's stick to the symmetric choices while going up and down. That is, the Arohana is the same set of notes as the Avarohana. At the risk of sounding repetitive, let's say that you always decide to be non-conformist and follow none of the so-called rules and conventions. Music is after all a creative art, and a final criterion is whether it sounds pleasing. How do we select this quote subset unquote of keys? Our ancestors have done quite a bit of research on such selection rules and have come up with algorithms for you computer scientists out there. Let's look at the Western music first. The major scale is a very typical selection algorithm. This helps you select 7 keys in an octave. The rules are as follows. First key, choose any key in the octave. Second key, skip the adjacent key to the right, choose the one after that. In effect, you have moved a whole tone from the first key. Remember the concept of whole tones and semitones from the first part? And that whole tone equals shifting 2 semitones. The third key, again skip the adjacent key to the right and choose the second one. Again you moved a whole tone. Fourth key, select the adjacent key. You have moved a half tone or a semitone. Fifth key, skip the next key but select the one after that. Once again you moved a full tone or a whole tone. Sixth key, a whole tone. Seventh key, the half tone or semitone. In short, your frequency selection is select a key and then move by the following intervals: whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, and half tone. If you started with the usual key, C key, the first white key, you will see that the C major scale is simply all the white keys. This is a very major scale really with a lot of popular compositions. And in the process of introducing this algorithm, we have also defined the term scale, which is simply a sequence of keys. Also, the algorithm wraps around itself. That is, if you started out with the F key, for example, and created an F major scale, you will spill over to the next octave. But that is okay because you can fill up the rest of your scale by starting out with an F key of the previous octave. That is, with this algorithm, you will always select 7 keys in an octave. The question to ask is, will we get unique sequences using these algorithms every time we start off with a new key, or is there a possibility for our sequence repeating itself for 2 different starting keys? That is the C major scale different from D major scale, and are there 12 unique major scales? I leave this exercise to an enthusiastic reader. So let's first take an example played by Harihar of the major scale. Now that is the major scale sung from C, and the major scale is formed by major from combining whole tones with half tones. So the first whole tone, sa re, that distance is called one full tone. Ga, now from re to ga, re ga is a whole tone. Ma, now the ga ma, that distance is a half tone. Pa ma pa is a whole tone. Dha pa da, that frequency distance is a whole tone.